Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the School Board Forum hosted by Windsor on Air. Just some basics. We have tonight. We're going to go probably till about 8 o'clock, maybe less if we feel that way. We're going to start with some basic questions, and then after that, we'll open it up to people in here have questions, or if we want to do any, if anyone's on the Google call. So first off, the candidates, we have a 3-year seat for Windsor, which nobody is running for. We have the 3-year seat for West Windsor, which is Elizabeth Burrows. And then we have the 2-year special election, which is Dave Taft and Megan Lee. What we'll do is I have 6 questions written. Basically, I'll start with Elizabeth on the first question, and we'll go down the row. And then the second question, I'll start with Dave, so we can serpentine and no one gets stuck having to answer the question first every time. So we'll start with Elizabeth on the first question. Just introduce yourself and explain why you're interested in serving on the school board.
First, I'd like to say thank you for this opportunity. It's not that often that people actually get to hear about who I am and my thoughts about things. So I appreciate the opportunity. I'm Elizabeth Burrows. I am a resident of West Windsor, Brownsville, more specifically. I'm a parent of 2 kids in the Mount Escutney School District, one at Albert Bridge and one at Windsor School, or Windsor High School. I've served on the board since before the merger. I'm interested in continuing to serve because I think broadly public education needs as much support as we could possibly offer it. And locally, because I want to continue to be part of the process of shoring up and improving our system. For full disclosure, I also serve as a representative for the Windsor 1 district in our state legislature, which is Heartland, West Windsor, and Windsor. I do not serve on the education committee, but I am one of about a dozen legislators who are also school board members. And I think that really is a benefit to both our board and to the communities I serve, because I'm able to, being at the legislature or being on the school board allows me to stay grounded in my work at the legislature, and being at the legislature allows me to bring news about what's happening up there, especially in terms of education. And let's see. And it helps me to explain to board members on both our Mount Escutney board and the supervisory union board the nuances of what changes are being made at the state, and why I want to continue to serve. I think I already said, because I want to continue to be part of shoring up the education in our district.
Great, thank you. Thanks. Dave?
Most of you know me. My name's Dave Taft. I was born here in Windsor, and I have never lived anywhere else, so I have some longevity for the decades. I have served on the school board before, 20 years ago or so, after my son graduated from high school. And I ran after he graduated from high school because I was not happy with what I had seen and what I saw going on in the school. So basically, I'm running again for the same reason. I think that a lot of things have to change, and I haven't seen a lot of people out there that have gotten involved and asked for change. I really got more involved again after the election last year, and I was I thought the way that after the election that it was handled wrong. And so I've actually been attending every school board meeting since then, except for the one when I went off and went deer hunting. And I'm involved. I've always been involved in the town. I was a member of the skate park committee to make the Windsor Skate Park a reality 20 years ago. As I said, I was on the school board. I was a member of Windsor On Air. Community, children, and fiscal responsibility are always something that I strive for. And I try to be active and vocal in the community. And basically, I think we need more involvement. I think that people don't understand the process. We all get our tax bill and we all think it's high, but I don't think a lot of voters understand that when you support these budgets, that you are endorsing your tax bill. So there's a coalition that goes along with that. Everybody wants to support the schools, everybody wants to support children, but everybody's getting stretched right to the end of what a blue collar person can afford right now. We're heading down an expensive road that I don't think is sustainable, and we need a change. And it's time to roll up your sleeves, do more with less, and we can't continue the path we're going. So I'm running for change. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Megan?
I'm Megan Reed. I'm a mom of an 8-year-old. We've been living in Windsor for about 15 years. It is important for me to be involved and engaged in my community. Last year, I was finding myself watching the meetings and being critical and curious about what goes into the decision-making process. I felt strongly that to gain an understanding to be able to effectively advocate for the quality of education that I would like to see in our community, I needed to be a part of the process. And that led me applying for the appointment and then ultimately deciding to run for the remainder of this term this year. It's not easy for me to put myself out here like this, but I find that it is very important for me to, even being uncomfortable talking in public, to still put myself out there and to advocate for the things that I think our community deserves and needs.
Thank you, Megan. Second question, we'll start with Dave. What attributes and behaviors do you feel are essential for school board members?
Well, I don't think that there's really any attributes or behaviors that are necessary to be a school board member. I think that you have to be open-minded, independent, honest, and fair, and you have to show up, because the best person in the world isn't worth anything if they're not there. So I have a track record and a history of being outspoken, being fair, being honest, being open-minded, and I consistently show up. The other thing that I have, and you can talk to anybody that knows me from my previous history, I will research and find out. I don't just take it as face value or whatever. I will do whatever I have to do to get the whole story, not just the story that's being presented. And then honest, fair, independent, and make the decision that I think is necessary to be made. So, thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Megan?
So I think the attributes and behaviors that are important are prioritizing students, integrity to work ethically, ability and openness to collaborate with fellow board members, educators, students, and community members, receptive and respectful to others' ideas and diverse perspectives. To me, those are the attributes and behaviors that are important for school board members.
Thank you, Megan. Elizabeth?
Thanks. To me, it requires a focus on kids and preparing them for a good life anywhere in the world. An interest in education, the energy and willingness to fully commit to the work involved, a tolerance for the extreme mundane, the realization that service on the board is not driven by big issues or controversies. Controversies have really only entered education in the last few years when I began, and probably when you were on before, Dave. It was really all about kids, and we never really had a sense of what way a person thought politically, because we really were kid-centered. And I appreciate those days, but I really do seek out other people's opinions, because you can't really make an informed decision in a vacuum. And so, willingness, or beyond willingness, desire to seek out other opinions and really take them into account.
Thank you. So next question, we'll start with Megan. What is your vision for education in this community?
My vision for education in this community is prioritizing student-centered learning by supporting the current programs of the flexible pathways and other forms of individualized learning. Also encouraging community involvement to increase and strengthen relationships between the school and the community.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't realize. I would like to think that one day we could get really close to every student being able to bring their full self to class every day and have every student's needs met. And that as such, learning would be amped up, and curricula and this is my vision, you said. So curricula and teaching would meet the increased capacity of each student. I'd also like to believe that one day that ideal would be so internalized by board members that striving to sustain that status would become a permanent goal of our board and district.
Thank you. Dave?
Well, I'm a pretty simple guy. I think that there's got to be more focus on academics and more discipline. And like I said, I've been going to these meetings, and I have friends with children in the school, and I know that we're in a socially different world than we were 10 years ago, but respect, discipline, cause and effect, you have to be punished when you do something wrong. And just by having a timeout with no sanctions is not really cause and effect. There has to be a recourse for what you do wrong. And I'm a socially conscious guy. I think that every human being is worthy and has a purpose, but I'm not in favor of all these specialty groups. I think that everybody should be treated fair and honestly and equilaterally across the board. And I'd like to see the test scores improve. Although I've gotten some latest data that says we're compared to other schools, we're doing, statewide, where a lot of us are not meeting the standard, but we're as good as the other schools around us. That I think that we could all do better. But basically, once again, we've gone to a place where we can't afford it. And, every student has everything they want. And, that's what's driving these budgets up so much. We cannot give every person everything they want and be able to afford it. It's just reality in life, you know? So, I think you can have a world-class education that if you want to succeed, you know, you will. But the way we're going is unsustainable. And we're headed in a bad way where average people aren't able to afford this anymore. And the product that we're putting out isn't superior to anything it's ever been. Back when I went to school, people could read and write, you know, even if they weren't that valedictorian. And it's not like that so much anymore.
Thanks, Dave. Next, question will start with Elizabeth. How familiar are you with the current issues and challenges facing our school district? And you can elaborate beyond just the yes and no nature of that question if you'd like.
Well, what I wrote down was very. Well, obviously, one of the challenges at the moment is to try to balance, we are in a time of exacerbated need as far as our students go. We have also experienced as a district, also in our state, the offloading of some of the ways to fund cures for some of the problem or addressing some of the problems such as mental health, which used to be covered by our general fund, now is covered by each district alone. I don't want to take up time by explaining how that happens, but it is a fact. And so being able to fund, we don't necessarily have to fund everybody getting everything they want, but we do have the responsibility of funding students getting what they need. And one of the most basic challenges at the moment is, you know, the fact that we have increased need. And another problem I think facing our district, which includes 2 towns with 3 schools, is that we have some cultural challenges at the moment, and those occasionally lead to bullying and harassment. And our state, our agency of education, like everywhere we turn, there's a different answer to how to address bullying and harassment. And I don't think it helps students at all to have all these kind of mixed messages of who's getting protected when students are the ones who should be protected. And I should add that these very same challenges are faced in our entire state and in our entire great nation. And that we actually have a dramatic rise in scores this year. So, yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Dave.
I believe I'm as familiar with the problems and the challenges that the public's aware of. As I said, I've been going to all the school board meetings, so I listen intently at those meetings. Within the last year, if they've talked about it, I've been there to listen. I do believe that there's other challenges that the public isn't so well aware of. And I think that's one of the problems. I think that a lot of things get talked about and fixed outside of the public. So I do know that one of the real concerns I have, besides the students, is that obtaining and keeping qualified employees. I believe that since the school year has started, there's been more teachers leave during the school year, unprecedented than ever happened in the history of this school before. And I know that times have changed. I know that it's difficult. I know that being an educator is not an easy job. But I also know I've never quit a job in the middle of it before it was done. So there's things going on. And I've asked about exit interviews with these teachers. They claim they happen, but I haven't, I guess they're not public, you know, so, but when that many teachers leave before Christmas vacation, there's trouble. Now, I don't know what it is because we haven't talked about it that much at these meetings, but I guarantee it's out there. And so that's one of the things that I think's lurking out there. I know that mental health issues and the discipline, those are also challenging, but you don't let the inmates run the asylum, you know, you gotta be in charge. You gotta mandate some of this stuff, you know, you don't ask them how they'd like to be disciplined. And so I think that we can all do this better, and, you know, and everything gets so magnified and, you know, you talk about mental health issues. What about in World War II when we were fighting and kids had to get underneath their desks and do air raid case that, you know, we were going to be bombed by Germany or Japan. You don't think kids go through this stuff and have in previous, you know? It's part of life, you know? I know there people have issues. I want to give them the resources to deal with those issues, but some of them are easier handled than the way we're going about it, I believe. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Megan?
So right now, I think, I mean, you both have touched on a lot of the things that concern me too. One of the biggest things right now is the budget that we are working on as a board when the current challenges that have been created, you know, at the state level with the new formula. So I think that is one of the biggest issues facing so far. Other issues, I agree with Dave, the hiring and retention of our teachers is definitely an issue. And I would also say that I think that the needing more support for mental health struggles of teachers and students is needed to be able to retain these teachers and to keep people in. So I think, to me, that is a big part of the issues that our school district is facing.
Thank you. Next question will begin with Dave. How would you address issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion within the school district?
Well, you know, I've said this at board meetings, it's difficult for anybody else that's not in that school to even try to understand what's going on. It's, if you have a child, you might get some feedback from your child that may be a student in that school. So, you know, it's hard if you're an old person that doesn't really have a direct connection to really understand it. Now, that being said, being a man about town, I've been sent videos of fights in that school. I've seen things that would have never been tolerated back when I went to school. And I guess they're not supposed to be tolerated, but if you get videos on your phone from students actually fighting in the hallway, they're happening, you know? So, pretty simply, this is what I would say. You treat everybody equally, the same, fair, honest, and you try to give them the help they need to make their life better. But special groups and special things, you know, this should be generic, in place for everybody, no matter what your diversity is. The golden rule, you treat every human being the way you would want to be treated, with respect, honesty, and sincerity. That's it.
Thank you. Megan?
I would continue to support the work of our DEI coordinator, Tracy Price. I'll also continue to our community members and educators and students and continue to advocate for policies and resources to address the issues of equity, and diversity in our community.
Thank you. I would make it clear that board members need to be sure that they take the time and energy to educate themselves first. And that in doing so, they'll realize that the learning and effort required to understand what belonging means really never ends. We don't reach a certain level and plateau there and then realize we finally done it. We continually need to strive for improvement just as we would with any other aspect of education. I would also suggest that either at the SU board level, because we don't make policy at the Manascutney level, we make it at the supervisory union level. And luckily, all of our board members are also members of the supervisory union, but I would suggest to the SU board that we might consider addressing directly hate speech in our schools. I feel that right now, our whole supervisory union is focused on student voice and choice. I feel that students should have more of a say in certain parts of their, not just voice, but that they should drive certain parts of their education. That they shouldn't just have a seat at the table, but they should be, feel toss the table out and feel that they belong there as participants in certain of the discussions. I know that I can't speak for Windsor because I don't live in Windsor, but I know that in West Windsor, sometimes it is a struggle to even be tolerant of others, let alone be inclusive, let alone present a circumstance in which someone would feel they truly belong. And so I think that's a problem that we can work through, and that we really need to work through, and that requires more community involvement and also board members being involved with community. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. And Megan. Question up, what is your understanding of the budgetary challenges our school district faces, and how would you prioritize spending to meet the needs of students?
So, as I said before, this is my first time being part of a board, creating a budget, going through the whole process. I've, watched meetings, I've both with the select board and school board, but this was my first process. And I feel like from what I hear, this is not normal that we've had this tax rate change. So to me, that has been a huge challenge, is experiencing that and also figuring out how we can fix it and make it better. I also fully believe that it is important to not act reactively when it comes to creating a budget and making cuts. I can't afford for my taxes to go up either, but I also really feel that we need to make sure we are not making cuts that are creating situations where our students and teachers are going without things that they need. I think that the student should be at the forefront of all of our decision making. And I feel very strongly, and I have a huge trust in our superintendent and the administrators in our buildings, that when they present something to the board, it is because they have really thought about what it is, why they need this. And I feel strongly that I need to prioritize their needs and what they are suggesting for the students. And I think I would do it in a thoughtful way, ask questions and find out why this is needed. But I do feel very strongly that our administrators are putting our students in their prioritizing our students, and by prioritizing their needs is what we need to do.
Thank you.
Me?
Yep.
We are in an extraordinary time as far as education budgeting all over our state. I don't want to get terribly wonkish. If anybody has questions and wants me to get wonkish about it, I'm glad to. But at the moment, the budgetary needs of our school district should be centered on students. We spent a whole year taking community input in what is it called? The Portrait of a Graduate, which included, I think, about 80 community members from all four of the towns in our supervisory union. And during that process, we agreed on what values we shared in those four communities with regards to education, and what we wanted to prioritize over the next several years. And then having done that in 2020, we then further created a strategic plan. Like, what does this vision look like? The strategic plan came afterwards, which was a 5-year plan to get to and it has benchmarks in it, and the different values and different goals of the strategic plan are expressed in many different ways. And so I would continue to prioritize spending by linking those goals in the strategic plan directly to our spending, which is what we will work towards that for a number of years, and we finally got there, and that's where we are. And as Megan said, trusting the superintendent and the principals to know how that actually plays out in the classroom and in the buildings. But also making judgments about what we really can do without, or following the judgments of the superintendent and principals about what we really can do without, what we can put off, or what the true priorities are for this year and for 5 years from now and for 10 years from now, and how are we working towards those things. And also right now, understanding that our state is in an education budgeting crisis, and I made a list of all of the complications this year, and there are quite a few. The process usually starts in October with advisement from the Agency of Education, which we did not receive until January this year. So the whole process, even if it had been a normal budget cycle without this catastrophic tax increase added into it, which we cannot address through budgeting, the whole process itself was really muddled. But we started talking about it immediately. We started seeing the problem right off the bat, and we started writing to our legislators, including me, our legislators and the Vermont School Board Association and all kinds of, anybody we could about how to alleviate this mess that we're in. That was a long answer for something pretty
Big
complicated.
Well, we're in a budget quandary. And it isn't something that just happened this year, though. I'd have to disagree with that. I would like to say that when I was on the school board, my previous time, I was involved with budget, and I've been on the town budget committee 6 years previously, so I've got some experience at crunching numbers and looking at them. And quite honestly, a budget member doesn't really have the expertise to know the needs of the experts. So you have to listen. You don't always agree with them. And you make the best decision you can. But I said this, I work in the trades. I like the best of everything and I want more of it, it helps you with your job, but I can't afford that. And that's where in the real world where we are right now in the education system in the whole state of Vermont. This isn't just Windsor. I would like to say and commend the superintendent and this board, because I was at the budget meeting the night they finalized the budget and accepted it, but they have had to rescind it since then. But the business manager said at that meeting that Windsor could put $700,000 more of spending in the budget and your taxes would not go up 1 penny. Now that's how stupid the legislature system is, that you could add $700,000 more to your budget and and your tax dollars would not go up a penny. I actually, from the peanut gallery, said, well, do it. You got to use the rules that they give you. Since then, it's all gone down in a ball of fire, and the school board has had to rescind the budget that they approved, and the education formula is a moving target. Well, the pandemic, we had a lot of people moving to Vermont from other states and other places. Most of them have more money than most of us. If you got a house that's for sale for $199,000 and it sells for $269,000, that's not an average Windsor person that bought that house, and if you understand the education formula, the common level of appraisal is a big part of the education funding system, or it was until it got so screwed up because the common level of appraisal went crazy when so many houses sold at way more money than what they were appraised for before. So the legislature is running around trying to fix things that we don't even know or understand. But I'll go back. We've been in a mess for years. Act 46, people forget Act 46, they were going to close small schools, consolidation. We couldn't afford it. The governor has said this for years. It's not something new. So we had a committee that talked for 3 years about a merger, well, Weathersfield and Heartland chose that wasn't a good deal for them. They didn't want to give up their school choice, so they opted out. Well, West Windsor, yeah, small school, 46 kids. Yeah, they're a little bit, if you believe what they're saying up there in Montpelier back a few years ago, they're in trouble. So they gave up their school choice, made a deal with Windsor, and we joined. Now we're the Mount Escutney School District. Okay. Well, I was against that back then. I'm still against it. Where have we saved any money? Well, I heard the one school board member at the last meeting say, well, West Windsor has saved money because they don't have to pay tuition anymore. And well, that's good, but Windsor doesn't get their tuition anymore either because now they're not a tuition student. So they have to come here. But we lost those dollars that West Windsor used to pay. So yeah, so that's kind of a wash, right? But we have to learn to do more with less. All these programs that they're kicking around talking about, yeah, I'm sure people think we need them. But I just sat down and went through the annual report, you know, and so the best of my ability with what I got here, Windsor K through 12, they have 537 students. They have 79 administration, staff, and guidance. Albert Bridge, they got 46 students. They've got 27 administration and staff. Well, then we can go down the SU, we can get in there. SU has 41 employees. Special ed, 29 more. We got maintenance and custodians, there's 12. Food service people, well, we all gotta eat, we need them too, you know, so there's 8. Well, add that up, and I understand the SU and there's special ed, that's not just the the Mount Scottney, that's district-wide, so, you know, this isn't just talking about us, because there's other people kicking in money here too, but that's 197 employees for 600 people. That's quite a bit of people, quite honestly. So back to, I'm sorry, you got to do more with less. Time to, you know, not add staff. Try to get, you know, I asked, how come we have a principal that leaves? We've got more principals than we've ever had in the history of school since I've been alive here. But they didn't even talk about taking some of the principles that we have, adding a little bit and being creative and not adding another one. They did a national search to find one. These are the type of things we can't have anymore. I mean, they're luxuries, they're not necessities. And I have listened to the business manager state over and over, the budget has gone up 30% in the last 3 years. Students haven't gone up, enrollment hasn't gone up. What's gone up is the cost of doing business over and over again. Now, I get it. Oil's more expensive, gas more expensive, everybody gets a raise. Health insurance, oh my God, you know, we don't want any universal health insurance. That went up really high too. But my history of being involved in budgets, 95% of budgets or more are people, salaries, and benefits. You're not going to save any money by cutting pencils. You have to cut people, salaries, and benefits. And, you know, I'm not against schools. I'm not against children. But I am against my tax bill. And I can't afford it anymore. You know, I'm retired, you know, and some of these lifelong Windsor people that, you know, back when they made their money, they never made more than $35,000 a year. You know, I guess you can make more than that if you go to McDonald's now, but that's not the blue collar person. Now, and I understand there's income sensitivity for the school. And so if you are a low or modest income person, you can, but everything is complicated, you know, and you can forget to fill out your HS 122 or fill it out wrong, and just by having too much paperwork you don't understand, you may not even qualify for that. If you are low income or middle income and you're struggling, make sure whoever fills out your taxes knows about this and fills it out, because it can help a lot. But just remember, the funny money, it comes from somewhere, you know, so if you're not paying here, somebody else is paying over there, because the bottom line is the bottom line. And that's how much money we need to run the system. So if you get a break over here, they're adding something over there, because it's all got to balance out in the end, you know? So, and I'll tell you one more thing, you know, the pandemic. Okay, well, there was a lot of money out there. This is another problem. We add things because it's emergency and we need it, but they become the norm, and you don't get rid of them the next budget cycle. What you do is you keep them and you add a couple more. We can't afford that. I'm sorry, it's a luxury. We can't afford it. And I'm going to make the plea to you, the voters. A vote for the budget is a vote for your tax bill, you know? I'm not against education. I think it's the most important thing in the world. But it doesn't have to be this expensive to work. And it's time for all people to get together, become vocal, get involved, understand it better, which is difficult because you take a listen to some of the formulas and you take the common level of appraisal and you mix it with something else and you throw it in, you stir it up, and then they didn't like it, so they change it again. So it's complicated, you know, but community involvement is key. Another reason why I'm running, I don't think that, I mean, the perfect example is last year during the trouble we had after the election. If that had been done more openly, in my opinion, if that had been done more openly, more in the public with a little bit of public's eyes on it, I think that would have done so much good to bring the community together. What it did was didn't do anything. In my opinion, we're just as fractured as we ever been. So that's my my spiel. So I know a lot of people don't like it. I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, but a lot of us can't afford it anymore. Oh, one more thing.
Dave, I'm gonna cut you off there. All right.
Why is that?
We're in the time limit. We're getting requests, getting the cut off from Paula. Okay. You could continue on in a moment. I just want to make sure we have time for more questions, okay?
Oh, I thought we were doing 90 minutes. Sure.
Well, not 90 minutes of one person. Do we have any questions from the audience? No, it's open to questions for the audience now. So if you guys have questions or folks on the call have questions. Oh,
I don't know, it's not directed at anyone in particular.
sure. You can ask for everybody.
Just in general,
Yeah.
it's something that Dave brushed upon was our ESSER funds. ESSER funds came through COVID. There was a lot of money for building infrastructure, air, everything else, and it goes towards, I'll call, let's say, social emotional assistance for students that were kept at their house. And then they're allowed now to help integrate with each other. And I see that, so that's state funding, here's your money right here. But then now those positions, I believe, seeking to be sought to now become a permanent position. I'm on the select board, we had opera, and we were very cautious about spending opera money, not to create a debt, not to create more funding post the money, which, you know, we took care of some infrastructure. So my thought, my question is, do you support seeing that the ESSER money now is going to go to the town that's going to be paying for more support, let's call it support, the infrastructure support. Do you approve of that? Or are you saying, okay, the funding ran out, we have to go back to what we had was counselors, you know, a little more parental assistance and doing a wrap with the students like that? So that's my question. Do you support continuing funding taxpayers, ESSER, now taxpayers?
Can I answer first?
Sure.
We didn't actually add any, we were very careful actually in spending ESSER funds. We did really almost completely exclusively spend it on one-time projects. We don't have positions that were funded for a year during the ESSER funding. We have added a couple of mental health related positions because they're not because of ESSER, but because they formerly were supported through the state's general fund through HCRS, whose acronym I can't remember the, you know.
Rehabilitation services for several months.
Thank you. So we used to get those services through HCRS. HCRS no longer has the capacity to have the same partnership with schools, but we still have the same level of mental health needs and more. So we have added a couple of mental health related positions, but they didn't have anything to do with ESSER funding. They had to do with the state not supporting HCRS.
Other funding should be funded by taxpayers. Pretty much.
Yeah, yes, and our students are really, like, if you take a look at ourselves as adults who have the tools to, or have some of the tools to, get through some of the turmoil that, or the, you know, chaos that's going on in the background of all of our lives, we have those tools. I can tell you from, the kids I know that are in both of these towns, they need a lot of extra mental health support. There's a lot of, and it's not because of bad parenting or, you know, anything else. It's that, you know, I don't want to get philosophical, but I will for a second. We adults have some unprocessed stuff that's going on. We don't have the capacity to help our kids through some of the mental health challenges that they have. And so they need it, or it would be not a learning environment for students to have some of those students in the classroom without that assistance, and also for those students, but you know, for all of the students. And we've been told over and over again at every level, at our school building level, at our district level, at our SU level, at our state level, at our federal level, that over and over again, right, like we have tons of data to support it, that students need extra help in this area. And if we don't give it to them, we're going to cause a whole generation of people who are scarred by this era, and they will bring that into their adult lives. And I don't want to know what would happen if we didn't provide that for them. I don't want to know that for my own kids. I don't want to know that for what would happen to society if we weren't able to help students get to a regular level where they could access their own education. Sorry for the long answer.
Dave or Megan, would you like to chime in on that?
Well, I'll say that, you know, everybody has mental health experiences through their whole life. And you said as adults, well, you know, there's adults out there that need a lot of
Yeah,
assistance also.
yeah.
You know, I know that we're in a special situation in this country. I mean, there's political leaders that need mental health. But anyway, you know, you provide services, you know, that I just think that we've gone way too far. And, you know, I don't think the product is getting any better. I think it's time to do more with less, be consistent, be honest, be fair, and disciplined. That's my opinion.
So I would say to what Dave said earlier, like, we're not in the schools. Like, I'm not in the school every day. I trust our administration, the teachers in our school that are asking for these services for students. There's a reason why they're asking. There's a reason why we are being told that this is needed. And I trust of what they're seeing, that this is important for our school to have as part. So I feel like it is something that should be funded. I think it is something that we need to move forward with and continue, because there is a reason why it is needed. I fully believe that we need to retain teachers, and part of that is supporting our students and our teachers in a positive way.
Thank you. Any other questions, folks? Anything on? No. You guys have any questions for each other? Any other thoughts you'd like to wrap up?
I have a question for these two current board members. I watched the business manager and I watched his presentation, and he identified much concern. And he made the comment that this is not sustainable. So I'll ask the two of you, do you think it's sustainable?
Well, I mean, I think that I'm not sure whether Ed was talking about uh, the, the tax implications for that day. Or whether, I'm not sure
Well, he
exactly
said
what he was.
30% increase in 3 years, so I don't think he was talking about that day. I think he was talking the history of where we have been and where we're going. Do you think it's sustainable?
Is it okay if I
Yeah, please.
I've rewatched that, and my understanding from it was that he was talking about the formula. Like that formula was not sustainable, that there was, where was the money going to come from? He had said multiple times. So it was my understanding that yes, that the way the state had done the formula, that every school in the state was not going to be able, there was not going to be enough money. And that is what we have found. That is how I took it as I rewatched the video again. I think that some of the things with the budget that he was saying, like, that are uncontrollable, that are not sustainable, like the increase in health insurance, has it, as a board, we have no control over the health insurance cost.
No, it's
It is-
actually negotiated by the state.
It's negotiated, but it has, so that increase is astronomical, and unfortunately, there's no control that the school board has over that. So we need to, like, again, like Elizabeth was saying, when it was identified that this wasn't like, it is talking to legislator, it's doing things at the state level as well as at the board level, is my opinion.
I agree. And I think that this is it. I mean, like it or not, this is an extraordinary year. And I mean, I really, really hope that the legislature is able to come up with a way to, and I mean, with a way to fix the funding formula and also I hope offload some of these costs. Like my partner was saying over the weekend that, maybe insurance and benefits, we don't have any control over that. So maybe healthcare and benefits should be partnered with the teacher pensions and offloaded off of education spending, because we don't have any control over that. I talked to the chair of House Education today about it. And he said, well, then how are we going to pay for it? Which is, you know, a fair point, but it's a different source of funding. And unfortunately, there isn't that much of the like we didn't have that much added spending this year. It became clear, as Ed said, and as other board members around the state have said, it became clear in January that it would be fiscally irresponsible not to take advantage of that extra $700,000 in spending, which we can pare down, but it would have been irresponsible for us to say no to free money. Had we had the guidance from the Agency of Education, we probably would have understood what the purpose of that was, alas. And yeah, the thing about education, the cost of education is it never goes down. It does continue. I mean, it's
You know, most of the things in your budget are out of your control. You know, the price of fuel to heat the buildings, the price of gas to run your vehicles around. The only thing that you really have control over is the amount of employees that you have. That's 99% of your budget. So you can sharpen your pencil and cut a gallon of gas here and some oil over there and whatever, but what is driving the budget is the amount of people along with their insurance and their benefit package. So I mean, so there's not a lot of places to cut. That's right, because most of it is fixed costs that are out of your control. It's time to do more with less.
I have a couple questions for you, Dave.
Oh, boy.
Okay, all right. When you were talking about, the number of employees.
Yeah.
In our supervisory union and in our district and elsewhere, where I was wondering, I see that you read our district's annual report, and I appreciate you actually reading it. I wondered whether you compared those numbers with those employee numbers with other supervisory unions around our state to see whether that was average or whether it's extreme for our state.
No, I did not compare. I went through the school report and everybody can get one. And I actually made marks and counted employees. But no, I haven't, compared to others, but I will say that I do believe this is not a unique problem with Windsor. I believe it's an educational problem, and your point is well taken. Probably everybody's got a lot of employees that, and they're in the same boat we're in. Time to do more for less. So no, I have not compared others. I only have the Mount Escutney School District report. I don't have. I'd like to get White Rivers though. I've been reading a lot in the paper about them though, so I'd like to compare ours to theirs. Anyway, if anybody's got one of those, I'd like to read it. Another question?
I got another question.
Oh, boy.
Would that be all right?
Yeah, it's all right with me. I love them.
You mentioned that when you were on the board before,
Mhm.
after your kid graduated,
Mm-hmm.
that you joined the board because there were things that you were unhappy about, but you didn't say specifically what you were unhappy about, that you're asking for a change. But I wondered what made you so unhappy that, for goodness sakes, you decided to join the school board?
Well, I used to think that you do your battle and then you shake hands and we disagree and walk away. I couldn't believe that professional people would ever hold a child responsible for something that maybe his parents said or did. Well, boy, once I found out I was wrong, and I found out that still goes on today. It's very hard for a lot of people to distinguish between that. And I got involved because I didn't want my son to be the negative fallout of what I was about to do. And I was 100% sure that it would have affected him if I had ran for the board before. I'll say one more thing. Somebody that I know that is not really supporting my candidacy did a little debate with me and said, "You got no business running. You don't even have a dog in the fight." And I said, "Well, I've got thousands of dogs in the fight, quite honestly. I come and give a check, and pay." And then I got thinking about it and I'm like, dog in the fight. Me personally, I don't think that they should be I don't think a school board member should be allowed to be a school board member if they have a child in the school. And here's my reason why. Every parent wants to give their kid everything. And, oh, I can't really afford it, but I need those new sneakers because everybody else has got them. And little Johnny, he feels weird because he doesn't have them. So I can't afford it, but I'm going to go buy him the sneakers. I think that there might be too much of that going on because you're so personally involved. You want what's best for the school, but you want your personal situation to have the best too. And I think there's a possibility that it could affect your decision-making process on the way of adding a little, not cutting a little.
So are you saying that you think that
I'm not
school
saying,
board members that we should have boards that are composed of people who
I'm
don't
saying,
have
I'm
children in
saying that's
school?
my opinion.
Okay. Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Why did you run for the 2-year seat and not the empty seat, which is a 3-year seat?
Well, because I really don't want to commit myself to 3 years. But I thought somebody had to do something, and the way the community's fractured right now, nobody else was stepping up. So if I ran for the 3-year seat, I would have been committed for 3 years. I'm an old guy. I retired in June. I was hoping that I'd be fishing, hunting, not worrying about this. But when I commit to something, I'm there and I do it. And I will commit for 2 years, but I didn't want to commit for 3.
And one more question, and that is a really simple one, which is, if you get onto the board, will you start using email?
I use email. I just don't think you need it every minute of every day. I've got an email. I will look at it once a week or so maybe, but if you want me in your back pocket, you better knock on my door.
Any other questions? No follow-up questions? All right. Any other final comments, thoughts?
Nobody from the audience has a question?
Guess not. All right. Well, thank you all.
Hey, can I finish my thought that I
Go
was
ahead.
cut off?
Yeah.
I was talking about, this is unique and it's a statewide thing and it's the perfect storm. We got the pandemic and we got, all the mental illness problems and the budgets and everything. But back to what I started to say, my point was the governor has been warning schools for over 5 years now. The Act 46, that was the act of the year there 4 or 5, 6 years ago. And everything got so complicated that we've kind of forgot about that. But, back then it was, oh, we're going to close these small schools. We got to do it. We can't afford them. We can't afford them. And I don't think anything's changed. I think they have become less affordable. But we've got so many of these other problems that the Act 46 thing has really took a back seat and gone away, but it's too bad that we couldn't have made it work and had Weathersfield, Heartland, West Windsor and Windsor and all be one big happy family and stuff. But as Bill Yates said at the last meeting, the bookends, tuition is a big thing for people that have to pay it. And, it's not just the sole Windsor problem. Education is really, really becoming difficult to afford for everybody. And we are going to have to think as a society, getting rid of some of the things that are costing too much and being more cost effective and doing more with less.
Oh,
How you doing? I'm sorry, I thought that was midpoint of the form. I didn't know this was the end.
no, yeah, we're in the end.
I apologize, I don't have any questions. So, I do have a question for Elizabeth, and could you speak of safety and security for the students, or what's the well-being for the students, and that's what our focus is, and that's where a lot of our money is going towards. But as you open the meeting with being a state legislator and being on a board, as being a co-sponsor of a homelessness bill of rights, which can have homeless dwellings surrounding our schools, as you see on sidewalks, or potentially on school property, which will create an unsafe, uncomfortable, potentially hazardous situation, harm to the kids entering the school. I don't see how we could be talking about spending all this money on the school and the kids' safety, but then being a legislator and co-sponsoring a bill that will bring danger to kids if these dwellings do surround the schools, which they do in other cities, and we see it left and right. They got needles and everything else, and it's not good. I don't know how
Well,
what your stand on that, how we can support that one, it could create a interesting kids.
let me say, just the fact is that, we voted that I did sponsor that bill or co-sponsor that bill. And, we've been talking about it in the community, or the committee that I serve on. And we just voted it out of our committee today. And, the version that we voted out only, it does not have that whole Bill of Rights section in it that you're referring to. It only has a section on discrimination against a person, or it adds housing status as a protected status in terms of housing and jobs. So that it kind of, and that was always the goal, was to make sure that the knot of you have to have a house, or you have to have a home in order to get a job, and you have to have a job in order to get a home, to try to untie that knot so that people who don't have homes have a chance of getting a job. You can, if this bill were to pass, you would have a chance of getting a job, even if you're homeless. And you would have a chance of getting a home. You simply couldn't be discriminated against if you don't have a home. If you're looking for a job, you have the same chance as everybody else. You're not going to be given extra, but you actually have the same chance as everybody else. And that was always the goal, because that is actually huge for people who just need a leg up.
So you can't dwell on the sidewalks or on the
No.
school, you can't dwell on.
Well, it depends.
So
It's up to you. It's up to you. It actually, you have it rests with the select boards.
You can't do that right here and leave.
It rests with the select boards.
That's legislator, I've seen in other states doing, it doesn't, it doesn't, they get trampled on.
But that's not what we passed out of our committee. What we passed out of our committee was leaving those decisions at the local level.
Can remove homeless dwellings on public property, that's what we're saying. Correct?
I don't know what the ordinances are in,
I just want to cross those two, that's all I was doing, I don't want to debate it, I'm just saying, this could potentially happen. We're talking about dangers of the kids and supporting them, and then this is what is happening in every model we see across it, they're trying to undo, and they can't.
and all I'm telling you is that
It's for the kids.
What we-
I'm talking about the supporting the kids.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that the bill that you're talking about only refers to discrimination towards people when they're seeking houses or housing and when they're seeking jobs. And that's all that's in that bill.
So the kid can't come sidewalks, okay, thank you.
Oh, I didn't say that.
No,
I just said-
now you're saying they can, so.
No, I'm saying what's in the bill. It's really up to you, what the local ordinance is.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you, Brendan.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.